Hi, I'm Eric Johnson at Owen Graduate School of Management, and I'm here today with Cindy Kent. Cindy is a healthcare executive and a member of the board of directors of Best Buy, and she's been here visiting the school today. And welcome, Cindy.
Thank you very much. It's great to be back.
Well, Cindy, you did something kind of unusual. You combined an MBA with a MDiv from our divinity school. Tell me a little bit about how that MDiv changes the way you lead.
Yeah, it has influenced many things. Predominantly, it's what I like to think of and characterize as 360 leadership. And what I mean by that is it's easy for commercial executives like myself to only focus on the metrics, and they're absolutely important. Increasing share price and shareholder value are critical. But as our employees come to work every day, they are so much more than that. And what has happened, particularly with my study in the Divinity School of Pastoral Care and Leadership, it is recognizing that when somebody's having an off day, we never excuse poor performance. That's not kind of where I'm going with this. But recognizing that on any given day, something can be happening in the background that influences or impacts how we show up as employees. And one of the things that I have come to appreciate more and more is that employees appreciate probably more than I could have ever imagined leaders who care about who they are as people. And I think if you were to poll, as often has been done, my leadership style, what comes up at the top of the list more often than not, it's inspirational leadership. And I think that was largely shaped and informed by the combining of the divinity degree with the business degree.
That's neat. That's neat. Well, you've been talking a good bit about 4 keys to living a wild and precious life, the best wild and precious life.
Yeah.
Why did you pick those? You picked 4, and what were they, and why did you pick them?
Yeah, so I picked the 4, authenticity, resiliency, vulnerability, and legacy. And to be quite frank, it is a dynamic list, right? This is where I am at this point in my life. And, if you ask me probably 5 years, 10 years, maybe 5 days, 10 days from now, that may have evolved. This is the space that I'm in. And I anchored in the beginning and the end that authenticity was absolutely first and legacy was absolutely the last one. I am obsessed with legacy and what's impacting the world and not doing things without intentionality and without thought. And so, and authenticity comes up for all people, but specifically with leading millennials, that comes up a great deal of being real and having leaders that they can relate to and they know what to expect, that they get the same thing, whether, it's the top of the house and I'm talking to other board members, or quite frankly, I'm working with people that are cleaning the building. Either way, their Cindy Kent shows up as Cindy Kent, right? You know what you're getting, for good or bad. Yeah. That's not always a good thing, but for good or bad, you know what you're gonna get. And with legacy. And then I started filling in other adjectives and other things in between, not knowing that that's where I was going to land. So for example, I had approachability, being a leader that people, but then as I continued to think about it, it started to fall under vulnerability. You're approachable because you allow people close.
Sure.
And so
Related.
As I started forming, it felt like to me, all of my thinking on those areas were best captured by those 4. So authenticity, vulnerability, which I love Brene Brown, she's my friend in my head, and resiliency of getting back up. There's lots of talk and research about the power of learning from failures. And certainly I've had enough of those to learn something along the way. And then legacy of making sure that you are a bridge builder for future generations.
Well, you've been writing about some of your own struggles with significance and success, and kind of this sense that maybe there are times that your soul's not really satisfied with traditional measures of success. Can you unpack that a little?
Oh, absolutely. And thank you for asking about it, because it's something that I continue to think about, write about, research about, full life leadership. And one of the things I want to be clear on, I'm not dismissing the notion of success by traditional standards, as long as you don't become imprisoned by the trappings of success, right? The monetary, but let's be real, that having success in those traditional ways affords you the opportunity to use your platform and your voice to make an impact and do good in the world. Like, what are you using it to do? For self-satisfaction and personal gain, I think that there's so much more. And specifically, this notion of moving from success to significance is one that has continued to be honed in this chapter of my life in the last couple of years, because I've become a member of two organizations in particular. One is the Henry Crown Fellowship at the Aspen Institute, and the second is an organization called Nation Swell Council. And in both cases, there are many more, but in those cases, each of those are focused on leaders who've done well by traditional measures, and talk about and how are you using it to make the world better because of your success. And so to have the discipline over time of being in community with other people who are thinking this way and living this way, and I'm talking about names that people would recognize from all the publications of the Harvard Business Review and the Fortunes and the Forbes, and we wrestle with these things together and on a regular basis. So even after you graduate or come out of the programs, it's a lifelong membership. And so it certainly has crystallized my thinking in that way, and my sense of duty and my sense of responsibility. And I'll go a step further. In the charged climate that we have as being a woman, and a woman of color in particular, I just feel incredibly blessed and responsible for making it better.
That's great. Well, I get to meet amazing executives like yourself, and it's a great
gracious
part of my
and
job. And I always ask them to tell me a little bit about leadership, as I'm a learner. And so can you share a leadership lesson with me?
Yeah, there are lots, and I've learned a lot through doing it the wrong way. But one of the ones that I try to talk about, and you'll hear me talking about most often, is activity without progress is not progress. I say it all the time.
I love it.
And it's true because it's true at the individual level as well as the organizational level. And so, as a test case, you ask somebody, what's your greatest accomplishment? What are you most proud of? And they give you a litany and a laundry list of stuff, activities, right? But they don't necessarily signal impact. And I learned the lesson, well, I reflected on the lesson later, but it was something from the earlier part of my career where I was asked to go through every high potential training and doing all of these things. And yet I began to watch my cohort and colleagues around me getting advanced and getting promoted. And yet I was on the front of brochures. I was asked to talk and do, presentations to the executive team and that kind of thing. And later I realized those were activities. That wasn't a sign of progress, real progress. So that was the personal, individual level. At the organizational level, and I had a recent boss who adopted it as his own, it's the same thing. That, right, you could be busy, and I hate that term, by the way. You could be busy, but are you productive? And so when you talk about what are the things that we're doing in corporations to increase shareholder value, and you look at the famous, how many performance objectives do you have at the end of the year, and they give you, you're not going to do 7 things. Right. What are the critical few? Because activity without progress isn't progress, especially when we're wasting limited corporate resources. So that would be my leadership lesson that I'd share.
I love it. Thank you so much for spending the day with us at Vanderbilt.
I'm honored and blessed to be back at my alma mater, so thank you.